I want to walk through a situation that we're in and what we can do about it. This is not a new situation at all. It's not something where other folks have not spoken to this. It also literally goes without saying. We are in a weird situation. I heard a podcaster speak about this in a very, very indirect way, and I want to kind of leverage that approach. Basically, if you watch the news, you know what I'm talking about. If you are a person that runs on the empathetic side, or maybe you don't even say that about yourself, but you suspect, maybe other people being in pain is a thing to address or maybe do something about, maybe even occasionally, right? So in that sense, we should probably be on the good side. We should probably do something to love others as we love ourselves. And some of us need to work on loving others, and some of us need to work on loving ourselves. And there's a lot of great videos about that. So if you stick with me, I'm going to do the hook now. I can show you how to do this in software engineering, in product-based startups. So anyway, with a lot of the bad shit going on, we can face it squarely, we can engage it, we can fight against it in a few different ways. But there's some wisdom that says that we should not be doing that. We shouldn't really engage evil head on. We should instead do good and not cast a lot of attention to the evil side. And I think that that's true. I think that there's a lot of positive wisdom in that. For me personally, if I'm watching the news and getting all upset about stuff, my blood pressure's too high. I become too grumpy of a father, too grumpy of a husband, too grumpy of a worker. But if I instead fasten my gaze and my mind on what good can be done, I'm better off. So me as an individual, I feel a very big emotional difference, a different emotional register between these two approaches, let's say. And so this led me to kind of think about, well, like, what is the maximum good that I can do? And at the moment, the maximum good that I can do leverages my experience, leverages what I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks. And it comes down to, how do you run a SaaS product-based software business in such a way that your employees or contractors are respected and produce great work for you? There are thought leaders out there that talk about this. There is, however, there are not many people saying that there are specific techniques for SaaS that bring you there, right? So we all know, from us founders who have been employees in the past, we all know that the style of leadership and the style of management has a direct impact on your health. This is the daily exposure that you have throughout the days and weeks and months and years to either a personality or a set of circumstances that are either beneficial to you or detrimental to you. You could be not just spending your employee or contractor's time, you could be spending down their health. And if I'm going to project, I would say that we generally don't want to do that. But we also want to make our business work. We want to sell. We don't want to act like a charity in business. That doesn't make sense. And I agree with that. So then, how do we do this? How do we do this in a SaaS? There's a collection of techniques here, right? And a collection of things to avoid. And I can speak to a few of them right now. This is going to be a bit fast. Thing number one, I think, is to be really, really clear about the expectations that you have for an employee. And I think this obviously starts from how you spec out a job role. So investing the time in really capturing what you need out of an employee. And depending on the stage that you're at, that could involve a dialogue with them about what the expectations are, if they consciously agreed to that, and then kind of soliciting from them also other ideas. And that what this does is it gives them buy-in into the process. And buy-in is a very important thing that you can actually achieve through the working session or collaboration. The other thing has to do with the multiple chiefs problem. You want to be really, really cautious not to introduce the multiple chiefs problem in your organization. And there are multiple reasons for this. They range from the pragmatic to the health, to the efficiency. And this is basically because, if you have one person reporting either officially or unofficially to more than one person, and those two people don't have very good communication and understand what's going on with that employee or contractor, that employee or contractor will end up in that situation where they have to constantly be the communication bridge between two people requesting things of them, and will oftentimes end up in situations like the rock and a hard place, or constantly feeling like they can't deliver because the person A that they're speaking to doesn't know that person B is also requesting the same thing, and they might have equal or similar levels of authority in the organization. And so this is a toxic pattern that the reverse of it is therefore an act of goodness, is to have clear reporting for an individual so that they are more cognizant of the parameters of their success. They have a clear path to it rather than something that's obfuscated, ambiguous, and ultimately toxic. Like, you say toxic because it literally creates a very unhealthy environment for the individual. Right? So the good version of this is a clear reporting structure. Now, adjacent to this is the second topic, which is an echo of, or a continuation of, the role spec, and that is the roles and responsibilities. If you haven't done a proper analysis of who is doing what in your organization and making sure where the overlap is, and using something like a RACI to identify who's responsible, who's the implementer, who's the accountable, then you are probably in a situation where multiple of the people in your team or teams is unclear about what they're doing and how much they should lean into it, and that sort of a thing. This is another pattern that if you get it right, you are a do-gooder. You're doing well for the people that are working for you in your organization, that are producing value for you, and they will also produce a lot more value as a result. Now, the other thing is a topic that's changing a lot recently, and it's basically the the software delivery mechanism, right? So the feature delivery mechanism, the go-to-market, right? So whether it's your first go-to-market initiative or it's your 900th, how do you get a feature from idea or discovery to creation to delivery, to getting it into customers' hands so that you can remain competitive and capture more market? This is in effect, in summary, and this is the hook, this is the agile process. The agile process is not necessarily Scrum. Scrum is a very prescriptive, fixed way of doing agile. It's somewhat even not agile, but it has a lot of the underpinnings of agile. The agile, we have to remember, came from Kaizen, which is most popularly espoused in Toyota. If you look at Toyota's founding principles and how and when they use Kaizen, they say that they prioritize respect for their employees. And so the principles and techniques that come out of Kaizen and go into Agile are based on that respect. Now, obviously, Agile can be used as a stick to beat with, or certain aspects of it can be like story points, burn down charts and stuff like that. But things like the working session called refinement, the working session called pre-refinement, the stand-up also could be used as a beating stick, or it can be used as a force of good, right? So let's talk about those specifics. The story points are used as a way of getting buy-in from your implementers and knowledge from your implementers to understand the complexity of a product idea, so a feature or an initiative. And the importance of this is that they can weigh in. They have an opportunity to express the complexity or the size of something. What that does is it gives them a fair chance to give you feedback about how to time the release of something. So if you have stakeholders to notify, which could be your customers, right? Or perhaps your investor or investors, your developers can give you that insight into how long it will take to deliver something. So the bad version of this is you do a press release about releasing a new feature or functionality, and then you go back to your team and say, hey, in this press release, I just mentioned that we're going to release XYZ product by end of August, right? This is a way that I have seen done in Tesla Energy, and I would highly recommend against that. That is a good way to expire everybody working in your organization. Now, that's just in terms of sizing, right? This is actually part of pre-refinement and refinement. The other thing has to do with leveraging the insight that you get from engineering to figure out how to incrementally release. Now, if you incrementally release, you're sizing down the releasable chunk and making it more predictable. So there's less likely to be unforeseen circumstances because the increment is smaller. Then therefore you get things out to customers in a more reliable way. And obviously you can report to investors that you're getting traction on delivery as well as use of the thing that you delivered. These are the principles of Agile. They stem from Kaizen, and Kaizen stems from respect for employees. At the end of the day, what this does is it makes you more efficient, right? Because at the end of the day, empathy is information. Information is best. The better your information is, the better you can act, more often than not. But especially with engaging with other humans. So that's the nugget there at the end, is that having a focus on Agile and figuring out how it can work for your team is essential to actually doing good.